let's hear from the two head coaches about the mindset as we got the timeout and what Rich Bisaccia was thinking on the other sideline from Brandon Staley as we got closer and closer to the end of the game. First Staley, then Bisaccia. Here they are.
Brandon, you took a timeout there with 38 seconds left before the 3rd and 4. Why did you take a timeout there?
Yeah, we needed to get into the right grouping. We felt like they were going to run the ball, so we wanted to get our best 11 personnel run defense in, make that substitution so that we could, get a play where we would deepen the field goal.
Derek Carr said after the game that timeout changed their mentality. Do you think that had any reason to do with them?
I don't think it changed their mindset because they were going to run the ball on the play before, and then they ran the ball the very next play. So we wanted to make sure that we got our run defense in there, and we obviously didn't execute well enough, but we wanted to get our premium one-back run defense in here, and that's what we did.
Was any part of the motivation for you saving time to potentially win it if they were to miss that field goal?
My mindset was to make the field goal as long as possible.
At the end of the game, all the playoff machinations. Right. If you tie. Was there any consideration to just running down the clock there and not even attempting a field goal?
It was conversation. We were talking about it. I don't know if you know, we ran the ball there, and they didn't call a timeout. So I think they were probably thinking the same thing, and then we had the big run to there. And when we got the big run, it got us, we thought was advantageous field goal position for us. We were going to take the field goal and try to win it. But we were certainly talking about it on the sideline. We wanted to see if they were going to call a timeout or not on that run. They didn't, so we thought they were thinking the same thing, and then we popped the run in there and gave us a chance to kick the field goal to win it. So we're certainly talking about it.
Mike, to your point, maybe the Chargers need to rethink their best personnel for stopping the run. They specifically called the timeout to get the best personnel on the field to stop the run, and they proceeded to give up 8 or 9 yards when they knew exactly what the Raiders were doing. There was no mystery what was happening on either side of the ball in that moment. It was just a failure of execution, or we would be talking today about the Chargers playing the Bills, the Raiders playing the Chiefs, and the Steelers sitting at home pissed off at the world because their chance at the playoffs was ruined by a tie.
I mean, I guess what I don't understand is, didn't they just stop the run a couple of times? I mean, so what defense were they putting in? I mean, that's what the Raiders were doing. They were running the ball, right? I mean, they were already doing that. I mean, you're not going to, are you going to goal line defense? I don't think you're doing that. And man, if that's what you did, then you're right. I mean, stand up and applaud the Raiders offensive line, because if they specifically called a timeout to get their run defense in, man, did that not work. Which I thought they were already playing the run anyway. So I was a little surprised, and it sounded like that. Again, we'll never know. It sounded like that if they stuffed them there, that they may not have tried that field goal. I think I agree with you. They may have just said, you know what? We're not going to risk trying to boot a ball that far with what may happen, so we'll just go ahead and take the tie. So if that was the mentality of Staley, okay. I mean, I guess I get it. You want to have your best personnel out there for what you think the play is going to be, but I guess you had just done that a couple of times, so I don't know what was so different. I may have to take a look at that again, but at least, Mike, I can understand the thought process that says we want to get our best personnel because we think they're going to run the ball, and that's exactly what they did, and they went through your best personnel, for 8-9 yards.
And, something I was thinking of this morning, Mike, because part of the skill that a coach acquires over time is knowing when to call a timeout and when not to call a timeout. And the explanation from Brandon Staley is perfectly logical, despite the complete and total failure of the personnel he put on the field to do what they were put on the field to do. I understand why he took the timeout. It makes sense to me, okay? But there are certain situations, and I think this is something that requires time, it requires reps, it requires wisdom. And I think back to Super Bowl 49. Remember at the end of the game when the Seahawks were getting closer and closer to the end zone, and people were wondering, why isn't Bill Belichick taking a timeout here and saving time so he can get down the field and try to win the game because you're not going to have any time. What are you doing? He just, and here's the difference. Back when that game was being played, Brandon Staley was on his way from James Madison to John Carroll. So this is the difference of experience. Belichick's been in the NFL forever. He, in that moment, sensed something, right? all the accumulation, and this is, and I don't want to go into an analytics rant and get the analytics mafia all pissed off at us on a Monday morning, because last night was a game that turned analytics on his head generally, that they're probably recovering from that. But the idea that there's something to be said for just having that sense of, let's just let this keep going. Let's not interrupt this. This is back to my original point. The plane's landing. There's just a vibe developing here. We don't need to worry about getting our best possible personnel to stop 11 personnel on. We don't know. No. There's something here. There's kind of a handshake. The two palms are approaching each other, and they're getting ready to say, okay, let's both get into the playoffs here. And that timeout disrupted that vibe. And that's so. I mean, I personally think Bill Belichick wouldn't have called the timeout in that spot, regardless of who was on the field. His kicker and punter and long snapper could have been on the field for that play, and he wouldn't have called the timeout. And that's the difference between young coach and old coach, inexperienced coach and seasoned coach. Because I don't think Bill Belichick calls that timeout because he senses where it's going. And Brandon Staley got caught up in the weeds of, we don't have the right 11 guys on the field, and it caused him to pop that. I get back to that, pull the plane up when the plane was landing on a tie.
So I love, first, your two analogies. You've gone plane landing and you've gone handshake. So you've done two analogies. But you've in all honesty, I agree with you, because I do think it was the exact same play. I don't think the Raiders changed their play. But I think, and I don't know if the mentality changed, but it was what you used a good word. It was kind of a reset. Everybody kind of got a breath. Everybody kind of got a little air and said, okay, one more play, man, we'll come flying off the ball. Where if that clock just kept running, I kind of agree. You were kind of in that mode. Hey, we're going to run it up the middle. You know we're going to run it up the middle. You know, everything's going to be cool here. Certainly we're going to try and execute it. But we kind of have that again. The plane is landing. Our hands are getting close to shaking to the end of this thing. I do agree with you. I agree that the timeout kind of paused it and gave everybody that breath to give one more, okay, well, let's just go and see what happens here. So I would agree that the timeout did change it a bit.
It really was something to see. I think it was the greatest regular season game since the Chiefs-Rams game from November of 2018, the game that would never end and that we didn't want to end. And in some respects, this game, maybe the passage of time will make us appreciate how special and unique last night's game was. To everyone knew about the chaos scenario of the tie, and there were people suggesting that it should have been a series of knees all night long, and that was never in the conversation. What was in the conversation was there will be a point late in regulation and in overtime. There will be a point where you start thinking it's in our mutual interest to just get out of Dodge with a tie. And that's kind of where we were. But there's never been anything like that happens with another team directly affected by that outcome. I'm careful to not engage in hyperbole in the hours after the game ended. But I think as the dust settles on this, we're going to continue to appreciate it for the unprecedented, rare, and probably to never be duplicated until another 102 seasons of the NFL go by moment that the season ended with, the biggest season ever ended with. And we can only hope this is the springboard into what will be a memorable playoff run for everyone involved.
Yeah. Listen, I think the Raiders were shocked more than anybody that Josh Jacobs gained that amount of yards on the last play. I really do, because I think it was going to be a tie. I think they were – it's kind of what you do, at the end when there's not a lot of time on the clock in the fourth quarter and a team has the ball deep in their own territory, end of the half or end of the game, and you're wondering, what are they going to do? Are they going to go for it? And they're going to try a safe play, and if it gains a lot of yards, okay, we're going to go for it. And if it doesn't, then we'll go into halftime with whatever the score is. And I think that was the mentality here. We're going to run a safe dive. Even after the timeout, that's not going to change. We're going to run a safe dive. If we get stuffed, like it had a couple of times, then we play for the time. We move on to the playoffs. But if somehow we gain a lot of yards, as you heard Rich say, it was a comfortable field goal, and it was for Carlson. then you kick the field goal. So I think the outcome, it's amazing. Again, for all the plays that you run, the outcome of that one play was going to determine whether they were just going to let the clock run out and be a tie or try a field goal. And I'm sure it was like, oh, hell, look at all the yards he gained. Oh, we got to try a field goal now. We're right here. It'd be ridiculous not to. So let's go win the game. So, I truly think if that was stuff there, it was going to be that tie.
And there still was that incremental risk when you line up for the field goal from 47 yards out of a blocked field goal returned for a touchdown by the Chargers. I mean, it's not like that play's never happened in NFL history. We've seen blocked field goals returned for touchdowns. That's part of the risk you're taking, and that's the fire that the Raiders played with that entire drive. I saw people say, well, hey, it's pretty simple for the Raiders. Go for the win and play the Bengals, go for the tie and play the Chiefs. Well, in the process of going for the win, you may throw a pick six. You may have the ball pop out. We saw that on the drive after it went from 29-14 to 29-22. What happened? Carr gets hit, the ball comes out, and the Chargers had a chance at recovering and having a short field before they did the 19-play, 83-yard drive with 2:09 left on the clock. So all it takes is one fluke, and your tie and win scenario both go out the window, and it could have happened on that field goal. You could have made the argument, 2 seconds left. You could have made the argument. Rich Bisaccia comes to the conclusion, you know what? Hey, I mean, let's do analytics. Okay, if I take a knee with 2 seconds left, I'm in the playoffs. If I line up and do the snap, spot, hold, kick, there's a chance, as small as it can be, run the numbers, computer, and tell me. There's a chance they're going to block this field goal and return it for a touchdown. Whatever that chance is, it's greater than zero. That's you. I'm telling you, and that's what we've never been in this situation before. But I would have had no problem with Bisaccia after thinking about it, saying, you know what? Even now, we're taking the knee. Even now, because we're guaranteed a playoff spot if we just take the knee with 2 seconds left, even though there's a 47-yard field goal. We are taking risk, small as it may be, of the worst-case scenario if we – and to hammer our point from earlier, you're getting one less day of rest. And everything that goes along with that, Josh Jacobs' ribs, Darren Waller's injury, everybody else you'd like to get ready to go for the game. That one day may make all the difference. So – and an interim coach is the one who's got to make this decision. It's amazing. But I'm telling you, I'm sitting here talking about it, thinking about it. Maybe even after all that, the smarter play would have been to just take the knee. It worked out, but that doesn't mean it was the smarter play.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, if he'd have taken a knee, I would have had zero problem with it. Like I said, you do whatever you have to do to get your team to the playoffs. Once you get in, then anything can happen. And listen, the riskiest play on that drive was the third down play to Zay, on the sideline, right? I mean, that was a phenomenal pass by Carr. I mean, just a phenomenal pass. But again, you understand why they did it. They missed that. They're punting the ball back, and now the Chargers have that decision. The same thing the Raiders are doing. What would the Chargers do with 2 minutes to go and maybe go down and win the game? At least if you have the ball, you have the control of doing whatever you want, be it take a knee or run safe plays. And again, credit to Josh Jacobs, a guy who hadn't been there early in the season with I believe it was an ankle injury, and Derek Carr was passing for monster yards, and then they went through a tough part in the middle of the season, then they finished with 4 in a row. And a lot of that, Josh Jacobs was running the ball well, and he had an excellent night last night. He broke a couple free. So it'd be interesting to me, and I don't know if we'll ever get the truth or anything like that, but I wonder what the number was. I wonder what it was of how far that last run had to go to feel safe enough to kick the field goal. Or to just say, you know what, even at 47 yards, it's still too long. Certainly at 56 yards, I don't think there was any way they were going to try it. Again, for people to understand how much lower the ball's got to come out, the further you're back to get the distance, that means you up the possibility of it being blocked. So I agree if they got stuff there, they weren't going to kick it, but I wonder what that number was. What if he gained 3 yards there? What if he gained 4? What if he gained 2? What was that number where he'd have felt still comfortable kicking that field? We won't know because they gashed him for 8-9 yards, and made it pretty palatable field goal. And again, and Carlson hadn't missed there. So I understand them trying to kick it. But if they would have sat there and taken a knee at that point, I'd have said, no problem, man. You're in the playoffs, and that's what it's all about.
I bet the break-even number was the 50. If it's a 50-yard field goal, they take a knee. 49 are in, they kick it. Because I think back to when we were growing up. You and I are just about the same age. Rich Bisaccia is 61. Back when we were growing up, a 40-yard field goal was a long field goal. And 50 was like, who the hell kicks a 50-yard field goal other than Tom Dempsey when he somehow made the 63-yarder? That's what made that record so remarkable. For anybody out there who didn't grow up when Mike and I grew up, I mean, 63, it's like, is that a typo? Because 40 was a big deal. 45, you're 45. You sure your kicking can do that? Because they're all kicking straight on. They didn't have the same leg strength we see now. And I think for Bisaccia, the break-even would have been the 50. At 50 or longer, I ain't doing it. 49 or shorter, I am doing it. And again, who knows? Because he was making a decision in real time that no coach has ever had to make in the 102 season history of the National Football League. But this Raiders season has been incredibly memorable. They finish as the 5 seed. That's another argument in favor of it, because I don't want to get too caught up in the idea that they should have gone for the tie. Getting the 5 seed versus getting the 7 seed has value, regardless of who you face later. Because who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs? The 5 seed, it could potentially get you the AFC Championship game at home if we see a bunch of upsets in the postseason field. If you're the 7 seed, you're never playing at home. With the 5 seed, you got a chance at some point you're going to host the Patriots or the Steelers in the AFC Championship. Is that nuts? Is that ridiculous? Is it preposterous? Maybe, but it's not impossible.
No, I completely agree. And, you know, that's another thing. What was going through the mind? Was that going through the mind? Did they talk about an extra? I mean, again, this is real time, you know, of thing. And there's going to be different people, you know, in his ear, maybe bringing up some of these things. Hey, we got, and I would love to know if that was brought up. Hey, we'd get an extra day. Or, hey, we'd be the 5th seed and we could possibly host a game if 6 or 7, you know, win through and have some upsets. That I don't know. But, man, for an interim head coach, he's certainly making a nice play to be the permanent head coach, given what this team has been through and the distractions they've had to now be in the playoffs after the 272nd game. They get the win in overtime. There's a lot for him to digest. We have the easy part. We can sit here and be Monday morning quarterbacks. Right? And everybody out there has the right answer, right? On the next day. Hindsight's always 20/20. But man, be in that moment, be in that time and make decisions that you never had to make before in real time. I mean, that's something. So everybody will have the right answer today or what they think is the right answer. But just like watching Jeopardy or something, you know, oh, I know that answer. Yeah, we'll be there with the buzzer and see when it's going on in real time. If you know it then, or if you don't freak out, if you hit the buzzer, if you make all the right moves to put yourself or your team in the right position, that's what he had to do.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.